connecting our lives to help us survive. So we live our time to the fullest we can.
Hi, and welcome to Professional Insights, created by Dementia Action Alliance. I'm proud to be your host today. I'm Laurie Scherrer. During our Professional Insights podcast, we have educational conversations with professionals in the dementia community to provide answers and support to people living with dementia and their care partners. My guest today is Magda Kaczmarska. Magda, welcome.
Hi, Laurie. It's lovely to be here.
Well, thank you so much for giving your time. Magda is a dance artist, researcher, and creative aging thought leader who uses co-creative community dance as a vehicle for belonging and well-being. Additionally to 20 years of experience in community-based dance, she worked for 10 years in preclinical neuroscience research. Magda is an Atlantic Fellow for Equity in Brain Health, a community of interdisciplinary leaders who are working to support access to lifelong brain health while reducing the scale and impact of dementia worldwide. Magda, again, thank you for joining us to share information about the importance of exercise. And I do have a few questions for you. Magda, I sure do have some questions for you. Why is dementia, or why is exercise so important for people living with dementia? I mean, what's it do for my head?
Laurie, thank you. Thank you so much for that question. Really, the bottom line is that physical activity is good for all of us. It's good for our brain health. And that means it's good for all of us, including for people living with dementia. In fact, we know that physical activity is consistently associated or connected with an increase in better outcomes for brain health in normal aging, as well as for people living with different forms of dementia. And actually, I was just going through my notes, and a lot of research around this is done or has been done with people living with Alzheimer's disease. But I was really excited, and I wanted to bring forth or highlight some research that's been done by someone at the University of California, San Francisco, who's been looking at the benefits of physical activity for people with frontotemporal dementia. As we know, some other forms of dementia are less talked about, right? So I thought that would be really exciting to share that this research by Dr. Caitlin Casaletto and her team that was published in 2019 actually looked at the impact of physical activity. And what they saw is that people with genetic variants of FTD or frontotemporal dementia actually had such benefits from physical activity that they saw over 55% decrease in progression of cognitive decline every year from participation in physical activity. So we know that physical activity is good for us. And I think a lot of us think about the fact that it's good for our heart, right? I think usually when most of us kind of hear about exercise, we think, all right, I'm going to get my cardio in, right? Now, cardio means that it works on our heartbeat, our heart rate, it gets our cardiovascular system, our breath gets a little bit faster, our heartbeat picks up. And that actually has a direct correlation to our brains. What's good for our heart is good for our brain. We know that as we exercise, we get more blood flow, but actually we also release molecules that help increase more capillary growth, more blood vessels in our brain. So we actually increase more nutrients going into our brain when we exercise. Now, there's some other things, and I know we can talk about that later, but basically, there's no wrong way to exercise, in my opinion. The only wrong way is to not do it.
Okay, so what do we know about the direct connection of exercise and the brain? And I know you talked about some things, but is there any total direct, does it hit our neurons? What does it do? How does it help our brain?
Oh, well, the first thing that we know is that just one burst of exercise actually releases a molecule into our bloodstream that's called BDNF. So that's brain-derived neurotropic factor. And this molecule actually over time helps support a process that it allows more neurons, nerve fibers to grow in our brain. So over time, that if we persist in exercise, then we end up benefiting neuronal plasticity in our brain. One other thing that is really interesting, and oops, my light came out. Hold on. There we go.
You're shining bright again.
I'm back in the spotlight. So aside from BDNF, which we know ends up moderating and helping support neuronal growth. But one of the other things that we know is that actually engaging in activity, physical activity, especially one that has aerobic engagement, so that cardiovascular engagement, actually helps the synapses in our brain talk more. So we're actually have more conversations within the different parts of our brain. And again, this is another research from the same researcher that I mentioned earlier, Dr. Castelletto, who actually, this research was really fantastic because she was working and looking at people who engage in physical activity in later life, right? So I think a lot of times we think about, oh, it's something that we must have started as a habit, but these were people who started and were doing physical activity later in life. And she was actually studying them after they passed. So she was able to look at their brains and what their brains looked like. And she saw that actually people who engaged in physical activity had higher amounts of proteins that work within those synapses when they engaged in physical activity. And what was really interesting was that even people who had changes in their brain that would have indicated that they have some sort of a neurodegenerative condition like dementia, that they actually didn't actually have any symptoms of it, and because of the fact that they were engaging in physical activity. So we know that there's a lot of benefits within our brain. Another thing that we know when we engage in physical activity is that it helps support, especially if we're doing targeted activity, it helps support building muscle. And we can help us maintain our gait and our balance. And this is where I want to put in an extra plug for dance. As a dancer, we know that engaging in dance over other physical activities actually is more supportive for supporting gait. Now, gait is it's how big our steps are when we walk, how quickly we are able to walk, and how stable we feel in one leg over both legs. And especially when we engage in partner dance, like waltzing or tango or cha-cha, that engaging in that kind of dance actually helps extend our gait. So definitely a big plug. It's also something that hopefully is a little bit more fun than maybe just getting on a treadmill. Maybe it will be a little bit more exciting, and maybe you'll be more committed to coming to a dance class with someone.
Okay, and I found that any kind of exercise, in fact, almost any activity, is always more fun and exciting when you have a partner, and dance certainly contributes to having a partner. But okay, I have a bad shoulder. I had surgery on this shoulder twice, so I can't lift it up. And I used to exercise very heavily, but I can't do push-ups anymore because my shoulder won't support me. And I've gotten lazy. I will admit I've gotten away from my exercise. I say I can't find time, but I don't make the time. So what do you recommend? How would you encourage those of us that maybe are computer potatoes? We might not sit on the couch, but we might sit in front of our computer and do stuff all day. How would you encourage us? What should we do? How do we get started? What's the best exercise we should be looking at?
Laurie, that's a fantastic question. And I do want to make a short plug just so that I think it's important for us to know that the recommendations from the CDC, as well as the World Health Organization, are 150 minutes of moderate aerobic activity and a minimum every week. So if we can look at 5 days a week, 30 minutes of activity. So that's what we want to be aiming for. But the truth is, what we'd like to aim for is getting that that slight lift to our heart rate. We ideally like moderate to high intensity aerobic engagement. Now, what that means is if you're walking and you're taking a walk and you notice that your heart rate's going up, but you can still have a conversation, you're good. That's where you want to be at. So now think about that. You can actually do that in your home. I mean, I know it's maybe not so much fun, but if you vacuum, I know I certainly work up a sweat sometimes. So even physical activity around your house or gardening, if you enjoy that, those are ways that you can get in physical activity. One other thing, we want to work on stabilizing those muscles. I love that you mentioned that you've had some surgery. One of the things that we want to do before we engage in any muscle strengthening, like weightlifting, so we want to work on stability. So if you have the ability to do a Pilates class, even online, it helps you make sure that you have stability within your shoulder joints, within your hip joints, and in your core. And that will help ensure that when you engage in some other activities, you'll be less likely to injure yourself. And so you can do it safely. But one other thing that I think is obviously as a dancer is really fun is putting on some music, something that you love, bobbing around. And you can do it alone. You can even be doing the dishes, or if you like to cook, or you can even just be relaxing, tapping along, getting moving and seeing how your body wants to move to music. You're already going to be getting your heart rate up. Now, if you want to add another extra challenge, this is something that I actually do with my partner at home, is putting on a piece of music and kind of going back and forth and sharing an idea with one another. It can be as simple as I'm going to punch forward, and then your friend is going to follow along with you, and then inviting them to send an idea back at you. You can do that for 2 or 3 songs. You've already probably gotten anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes of moderate aerobic activity into your day. And additionally, you're going to be adding quite a bit of challenge and a little bit more more difficulty and novelty and positive stress. That's also really good for supporting our brain health. So maybe you'll be willing to try that out.
Well, thank you. And thank you for saying that, because I obviously do vacuum my house sometimes. No, I vacuum my house and I dust, and I actually like music while I'm dusting. And I found I do get into the rhythm, and it makes dusting, I don't know, less mundane. Oh, and how about cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning the tub and the showers? You need some stimulation. You need something exciting happening in the background when you're cleaning toilets. I mean,
I know, Laurie, and I love that you gave me a beautiful image in my mind of you with one of those little sweepers.
Oh no, what a bad image. Yes, that would be me, not with this shoulder, but with
the other one.
Yes, that would be me. It's I think it just makes any task go a little bit easier. Like Mary Poppins said, a spoonful of sugar helps medicine go down. Well, a little song helps the chores go easier, I think. So,
and get the physical exercise into your day.
Thank you. So I get more exercise than I think. Well, Magda, I want to tell you also, at Dementia Action Alliance, we so much appreciate all your support and participation. It seems like you're there anytime we ask for help. And your bi-weekly virtual engagement program that you do with dance, everybody loves that. Everybody loves it.
Thank you.
So I appreciate it. For those of you that are interested in joining, go to daanow.org, connect with us, virtual engagements, and you'll see a calendar. I have to think, you'll see a calendar. So if you're watching this 6 months from now, you'll see the current calendar of when Magda has her virtual engagement classes. So thank you once again, Magda, for being here. Today we were speaking with Magda Kaczmarska and on the importance of exercise, and she gave us such valuable information. So I want to thank Magda, but I also want to thank you, our listeners, for joining DAA for our Professional Insights podcast. Please visit our website, daanow.org, to view other podcasts, find valuable resources, and find ways to connect with other people living with dementia through our virtual discussions and engagement programs. Dementia Action Alliance is committed to enhancing lives, connecting people, and increasing understanding. Thank you.
Live